Hey everyone, welcome back to the range. My name is Matt, also known as the Armor Wizard. Zap, and we've got a body armor test today. It's around 40 to 45 degrees outside. It's February, you know, it's winter, but I got the wool socks on and the waterproof boots, so my feet are toasty warm, at least right now. But we've got a level 3 NIJ certified model to check out today. This is from Grey Ghost Gear. This is actually a rebranded Hesco 3402. This is a pure 100% polyethylene plate. It weighs 3 pounds 2 ounces and is approximately 1.17 inches thick, or 29.73 millimeters, and or 1.417 kilograms for those guys across the pond who want the metric measurements. It is single curve. You can see those curves there. Not sure how well you can see, but we do have our Starburst logo to indicate that this is an NIJ certified model. That typically means that the company, Hesco in this case, has put forth a large sum of money for a bunch of logistics, proving out and testing up front to assure that serial number plate serial number 1 is exactly the same as plate number serial 00436574. So pretty much they're proving out all those different logistics along the way so that all the material and quality workmanship is the same, so you have confidence to know that this particular plate is going to perform to those good standards. Now here comes the giant spiel that if you're a newcomer to my channel, you may have not heard before. Over here on my channel, we do our armor demos completely different than a lot of almost anyone else on YouTube. We shoot at 45 feet. That is the official NIJ testing distance for rifle armor. We also shoot at 0 degrees because that is worst case scenario. That's, if anything you take away from these demos, I do worst case. So you know, in the real world, any shorter barrel lengths or engagement distance is only going to aid the performance of your body armor. This does not employ a ceramic strike face, so we do not need to drop it on its face 2 times as a preconditioning test, but we use a giant clay briefcase filled with Roma Plastilina #1 clay donated by Chavant that acts as our compressible media so that it in effect is like putting it up against your body. Now I did make myself a little heating box to try to heat the clay up to, because it has to be up to about 100 degrees for it to give us accurate back face representation. Probably not going to get there, but because it's only 40 to 45 degrees outside today, we're going to heat that up 2 hours before we do this test so that that clay kind of gives us a good representation of what you could see for back face. As always, if you see me stop around here, whether you're a consumer or the manufacturer, you should ask the manufacturer to send that off to an accredited lab to have that threat tested and add that to their different threat matrices. We also use a chronograph whenever possible because we need to know the velocity of that bullet. We have that at about 10 to 12 feet. It's a Prochronal PAL Digital DLX. We also put a spreadsheet here at the beginning and at the end that we foreshadow all the different threats that we're going to shoot at it. We mark our penetrations. We do a teardown at the end, although this is a pure polyethylene plate, so there's not going to be a lot to tear down. In full transparency, I myself purchased these plates from Grey Ghost Gear a little while back. They were clearancing them out because I think they're starting to offer their own brand. Up first, we'll start with some interesting 5.56 threats that I've picked out. Now currently under NIJ level 306, there are no threat profiles for 5.56. Level 3 is only M80 ball at 2780 feet per second. This is kind of where you get into the trouble where manufacturers give you a plus designation, but you really have to read sometimes what that plus is covering. Typically with polyethylene, the 3 plus is M193 at ridiculous velocities. When you get into steel 3 plus, that's M855 at ridiculous velocities. Now, not all of my viewers are United States citizens, or they are not in a locale where hardened steel penetrators such as M855 are a risk. Typically, if you are on the shorelines and you want lighter weight plates that are also buoyant, that will help you float if you were to jump in the water, that's where polyethylene can become advantageous. Personally, in my opinion, in the continental United States, polyethylene is low on my list. I would give up extra weight for a ceramic strike face plate that can stop M855 and M855A1. Sorry for being so verbose. Anyways, We have M855A1. That one with the band there, though, is subsonic velocities, because we like to show that there is a weakness to polyethylene even at slow speeds. We have a full power M855A1. That is the Army's current issue ball round, all the way down to basic. Copper core with a hardened steel penetrator. Then we have some M855 SS109. That's the lead core green tip round that everyone's used to, been around since like, what, the 60s. We have a 10.5-inch SBR right here with a turbo 556 on here, the primary arms 3X up top. So we'll take the full power M855 last, the two M855s second and third, and first we'll go with our subsonic. Now, to be subsonic, it should be under 1130 feet per second. I think we are a little fast today. This one, I'm going to place, hopefully, the upper part of the plate. Now for our full powered M855. It should be on the top right. All right. Then our shot of M855A1 should be on the right side of the little diamond point that makes up their logo. Now we've brought out Mr. Long and Strong. This is our 22-inch TC Compass Turbo 556. Got a primary arms Silverline 4 to 16 power scope up top. I've said it many times in a lot of my videos, but I'm very fond of primary arms scopes. Even some of these cheaper models, I always feel the glass is clear. We've got very good contrast, clearly defined reticles, and most of their scopes in the higher power range have good parallax adjustment all the way down to 10 yards sometimes. Now, generally most people don't shoot that close up with this much magnification, but I do, so I like to be able to see my target. So we've got our known steel killer. This is M193 55 grain full metal jacket, lead core, nothing special. It's just going very, very fast. That is very detrimental to steel. Now our polyethylene plates, on the other hand, typically can soak up quite a bit of these. Now that's another advantage to a 100% pure polyethylene plate, is it is very multi-hit capable. As long as the panel is pressed, you can put quite a few shots on the plate. And because of how polyethylene works, all that fragmentation that's typically a concern with our steel plates isn't a concern with polyethylene, because all the fragments are caught inside of the fibers. We've got 5 rounds of this that we'll place on our plate. Now the downside for me, as far as an entertainment factor goes for our polyethylene plate, is they have a limited threat profile. I mean, we could shoot steel core threats at these plates very easily and poke holes in them, and sometimes that's fun and all, but I want you guys to take away good information at times from these videos too. Let me zoom in a little bit here. So this shot I'm going to place towards the top. That was literally on the edge. And then I'm going to place this one on the, is it second row? Walk these right in a line, folks. Getting pretty good velocity today. This one right is going to be right in his skull. This one I'll place to the right of the A1 shot, towards the edge. Now for a round you don't see me test much on rifle armor, but because it has a hardened steel penetrator and I brought the gun, I figured it'd be a good chance to test it out. This is our 5.7 by 28 millimeters SS190. This is the restricted armor piercing round that is famous in 5.7. It's 31 grains, has an aluminum core And I do believe the steel penetrator tip is identical to the SS109 M855 round that FN originally developed. We have an FN PS90 SBR Turbo 556 suppressor on top. Got a design machine mini ACOG mount and a primary arms 1X Cyclops up top. I love this setup over the factory ring sights because the field of view is a lot larger and it's illuminated from the factory. I know some of the newer ring sights are illuminated, but I like this sight a little more. I'm not sure what my holdover is going to be, so we'll have to go check the plate in a second, but it should be on the right side or left side somewhere. All right, folks, this is where it gets spicy for polyethylene. If our plate is pressed, meaning there's a giant mechanical press that's many hundreds of tons that smooshes all the layers together, this particular threat isn't a problem. But if you use an autoclave, which is vacuum and heat to suck the layers together to form them and harden them without pressing them, that can be a deciding factor for performance. So we've got our 24-inch Savage Axis 110 tactical left-hand eject with our JK armament rifle kit up front. We've got M80 ball, that is the current spec for NIJ level 3 and will be added to the NIJ 07 RF1 and 2 standards if they ever drop them. However, the velocity is only 2750 or 2780 feet per second. With our 24-inch barrel and our suppressor up there, we're seeing upwards of 3,000 feet per second. This is just some Poonsang surplus M80 ball from the 1980s. And that's going to about round out this test. This is where we're going to see quite a bit of back face, if not possibly some penetrations. I do believe Hesco has stated that they do press all of their polyethylene backers. This shot I'm going to place right dead center on the star. Let me get lined up here. .28-25, not bad. This one will be to the right of that. About 100 feet per second over spec there. This one, because I like to, a bottom left corner shot. The sun's in my eyes. This will be the row up, second row from the bottom. Sorry, the sun's blinding me. And then this will be right next to it. And that's it. All right, let's go see what we did and see how bad our back face is. As I mentioned, the beauty about polyethylene is I can put a lot of shots on this plate and we can see where those shots were at, and we're cutting down on the amount of editing time needed. Our M193 shot was all the way up here. That, in the NIJ's eyes, is not considered a fair hit. They will not shoot closer than 2 inches from the edge, sometimes 3, and that's why all of these little dots are 2 inches from each other as well, because any subsequent hit needs to be 2 inches. There was our M855, shot number 1, shot number 2. There was our subsonic M855A1. There was our full power M855A1. Here was M193, 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 M193. Then our SS190, shots number 1 and 2. Then our M80 ball, shot number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now you can see that I've got, at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or so more areas in this plate that we could shoot at them. But with our limited profile, it gets to be a little long in the tooth. Place those bets in the comments below. I don't have my helper hand because he went to do aerial yoga with the wife. A lot of mess going on here. R.A.N.G.E. Now I came down and checked some of these penetrations. We'll peel this back cover off, but we have penetrations from both shots of our M855, as well as the A1 right here, and our subsonic A1. It kind of looks like we might have a penetration down here from that lower corner shot. It looks like it just kind of pressed our polyethylene out of the way. Our hits of M193 appear to be stopped. We'll peel this back cover off and confirm that. Now, as far as our back face goes, I have been heating the clay up, so it's pretty warm. We beat it flat too. And as far as like a back face goes, that was shot number 5, right around 43 millimeters. It doesn't look like this bottom one penetrated, but it looks like it had the most amount of back face. 67, that would be failing. And that is 2 inches from the edge though. But I do believe for the M80 ball shots, it's like 2, 4, 6, and there's a little more space there. Now our edge shot of M193 up here was stopped, but that's going to push in a little bit, right around 23 millimeters. Now for a lot of people's favorite part of my videos is the teardown. Unfortunately, because this is polyethylene, there's not a lot to write home about. Hesco is using a very thick foam on the back. It's around 300 thousandths thick. Not sure why it's that thick. I wonder if they could go to that yellow foam that they use on the front strike face of their level 4 or ceramic plates and lose a little bit of thickness and have roughly the same performance. Confirmed after ripping this thing apart, our penetrations were our 2 rounds of M855, as well as our subsonic M855A1 and our 10.5 inch M855A1 right there. This bottom shot of M80 ball was actually stopped. It just bunched the polyethylene up a bunch there, bunch it up a bunch. Otherwise, this thing maintained its shape fairly well. You can tell that it is pressed, or at least it was until I put a lot of energy on it, because the layers aren't easily thumbed through. How much they press this, I couldn't tell you, and they probably wouldn't tell me either. But I would say this plate did fairly well for a polyethylene plate. Now in the past, some of our other polyethylene plates have stopped M855 from up to a 16-inch barrel. So I think that's a difference in the types of quality polyethylene. I like that there is a foam edge protectant on the outside edge here. Probably not necessarily on a polyethylene plate, but that just helps against any time that you may drop your plate or fall on it from causing it to break apart. Although again, with polyethylene, that's probably not going to happen. And that's about all she wrote, folks. Just to give you another perspective at how good some of these particular threats are against polyethylene, here is a good chunk of the plate. I peeled this away, so this is the back side. Here's the middle section of the plate. Most of our 308 threats didn't even make it past this part of the plate, but you can see our M855, our 2 A1s, and even our 5.7 threats made it that far. And here's the back section, maybe what, a 1/4 inch or so. There were our hardened steel penetrators, and even the SS190 made it that far. And then this shot of M80 ball did, and this is that lower shot that bunched it up but did not penetrate. Very, very interesting. Well, everyone, I would say our Hesco 3402 from Grey Ghost Gear performed rather well for an NIJ. level 3 plate. As I mentioned, under current 06 standards, there are no provisions for covering 5.56 threats in any kind. Those are what are known as special rifle threats, and those get added individually, and it's up to the manufacturer to have those particular threats profiled at an accredited lab. We were able to stop multiple strikes of M193 and M80 ball at well above the NIJ spec velocity. However, because I'm adding extra velocity there, that's why we saw more backface. This is an NIJ certified plate, so it's gone through all the rigorous testing to ensure that if you were to get hit 6 times with that thing with M80 ball at the spec velocity at 45 feet, you would survive. Now in the real world, that's where you're adding distance and velocity, and that is likely to drop off. With all that being said, it's time for me to get the heck out of here. I'm getting a little chilly without my coat on, but at the end of all my videos, I take a moment to thank all those who helped make these possible. Number one is my Patreon and Subscribe Star fans. I have a link tree in the description below with various different ways to contact me if you have any questions or support me through various affiliate links or discount codes. I also have a Rumble channel now, so if you don't wish to support me on YouTube, but you still want to consume my content, I am currently syncing all this content over to Rumble. Number two, I'd like to thank Hesco in advance. I have some of their other plates that I have been gifted throughout the year that we're going to test here when it gets a little warmer outside. We've got the 4800, the 4800 LV, I think a 4601, a D220, and I think a 3611, so look forward to those coming up. And of course, number three is you all for watching. Until next time, I'll catch you at the range.